Congratulations on the documentary. Tell us a little bit about playing. The rugby as a sport in the U.S. is, it's coming on strong. But why do you think historically rugby has not been, one of the top sports here?
Well, I'll take it. No, I guess. Eric, honestly, it's we have probably the biggest country in the world in comparison to some of the best rugby countries. Like New Zealand is a smaller place. I think Wales is like 3 million people in total. They're a good international team. So having a really big country that already has a really good foundation with other major sports, I think is what makes it tough. But that's kind of why you hope you have things like the documentary that comes out, because there's nothing that says that we can't get it to spread and get the American rugby community behind it. It's just got to grow, and it's probably just taking its sweet time. But I think that's one of the bigger challenges. It's a big country. It's hard to get all the regions on board. It's hard to get all the competitions on the same level, especially at the club level. So how great to have a professional league that the country can follow now.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the documentary. You're starting, basically starting in this league as a new team. Talk a little bit about what it's like to build something up from the ground up. No, why don't we hear from you?
Well, the MLR in itself is building from the ground up, but last year was the Hounds' second year, so infancy of a professional sports team. There's always going to be some peaks and valleys there, but even with that, it actually went far better than I even imagined it to be. We kind of just rolled with the punches and made everything work. So no, it was really good. And the thing that I was super grateful for was that we all just bought in with, I don't know, things maybe aren't going to go our way with it not being a major sport yet, and the funding and all this stuff, but staff and the ownership group, that they all bought in and made it work for the players and made it a really enjoyable experience.
Yeah, for both of you, why don't you share, a moment, could be something that was on screen or off screen, from the season that for you was kind of the biggest, most challenging moment of the season.
Mm.
I think we had a stretch where we had like maybe uh, three losses in a row. I'd have to fact check that, but yeah, some of the lower points were just us being a struggling team with a lot of talent. I'd say that was
Mhm.
probably the toughest part about the road that we had last year. That, and obviously having some like coaching changes and things like that. But like as a group, I'd say that was probably the lowest, is just not being consistent in the win loss columns, and being super competitive and knowing that we had the players and the talent to be better, and not getting the results was definitely a tough part of the season.
Yeah, I agree definitely with what Nate just said, and mine is a little bit more obvious, but how the season ended was pretty hard to swallow. Uh, Going into it, the semifinal match, we had just beat New Orleans in one of our best games we'd played all season. So we were hissing going into that game, and then to not capitalize on that and make it to the final match was pretty tough. But I mean, even our coach now, who coached at Seattle last year, said that we looked like the form team coming into the championship, um, and we knew that too. That's why it made it so hard to not get there. So all to play for this year.
Talk a little bit about, obviously, it's a pretty violent game. Someone said it's 80 minutes of violence every weekend. Talk a little bit. Hi guys, welcome to the chat. Talk a little bit about, that aspect of the game. I mean, football, you've at least got some protection. You guys don't have that. Talk a little bit about what that's like for you, athletically and just psychologically competing in that way, because it's different than other sports.
Like our sport, rugby, it just attracts a tougher mentally person. I think when you look at our sport, it's not one of the sports where you take a day off, or I think I've seen recently some people debating on NHL and NBA, and the NBA players take a lot of rest and need to take games off. And I think rugby's kind of one of those games where the expectation, or at least most guys psychologically, are going to play hurt. They're going to be bumped up, banged up, bruised up, but they're still going to go. And I think that's where it's very relative to football. We have an equal or very similar amount of regular season games. Every game matters, so there's no real opportunities for taking a weekend off or whatever. And I think just mentally and physically preparing for that and putting your body in through that can be really tough, but it's something we obviously embrace, and we love the game enough where we patch it up and go.
Dylan, do you want to get in on this question?
No, I think Nate nailed it.
Okay. Hey, Alex, welcome to the chat. Talk a little bit about what you wanted to show in the documentary, and what were the kind of the themes that you wanted to bring out?
Yeah, I think the themes are just that resilience that Nate was talking about, right? Like, I find it to be, as a non-sports person, just insane that these guys go up and just smash into anybody at any time. And they are constantly looking for their foot on the gas pedal as far down as it can be. And that's incredibly, incredibly compelling. But also, like, as I'm sure you've come to find out, like, these guys have their own stories. They have their own families. They have their own lives. So there are these heroes on the field, and then they're just doing their everyday thing, which isn't true of a football player in America. But it's just a testament to their character and how close I was able to get to them, and how they were able to sort of befriend the crew and vice versa.
Do you think it takes kind of a different sort of mindset to play rugby than it does some of these other sports? Dylan or Noah?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, there's definitely more of a cerebral part of it. And I know that sounds funny because we just talked about how it's 80 minutes of violence, but in a sport like football, you have one position. For years you could play one position and you nail that position, and you know, like, it inside and out. But in rugby, you have to play both sides of the ball. You have to carry the ball, get hit by people, and then get on defense and lay the boom to some people too. So there's a lot more to it than a lot of people would imagine,
And what other interesting thing about the team was that you got all these different cultures in one team. I found that kind of interesting. Was there any sort of culture clash that comes out during the course of the season, or were you kind of united by the game?
The greatest thing, I think that's one of the greatest parts about being a rugby player, is that, especially professional, you're going to have so many different people from different backgrounds. But it's up to us then to really bring that sense of belonging. Like, we need to get everybody moving in the same direction. Like, really has to go deep, to go into these dark places, to play hurt. It really, it's more important nearly off the field than it is on the field. You're making sure that you're looking after the families. Because the lads we can all do it together. We have the most special environment, literally the most privileged and probably the best job in the world. So it's nailing the stuff off the field. And if you show, like, wives kids, families, partners, anybody, and much you care, which we do, then it really, you can really do special things.
So final question. The World Cup is coming eventually to the US. What do you hope for that moment? What do you think it'll mean for the sport in the US? Is that going to be a tipping point where we're going to see a big change in public attitudes or just public interest in the sport?
I think absolutely, right? I mean, it's happened to other sports. It's happened in other industries. I think that's kind of the keystone that we're looking for. But I also think that what the MLR has cooking right now, like it's only accelerating year by year. So hopefully we can be at a level of access and a level of love by that time from the American viewership. But no doubt it will send it supernova if it's not already there.
Yeah. And just one more for the players. If someone's like a young guy who wants to play rugby, what sort of like workout, what sort of training do you recommend for them to get into the sport?
Play as many sports as possible. Get as many skills as you can, and it's going to translate to our game. Our game is an intermittent sport with kicking, passing, running, walking, sprinting, jogging. As many sports as you can, get the hand-eye coordination going, have as much fun as possible, because you're going to have a hell of a ride when you come and play our game.
Guys, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. Really enjoyed our chat, and congratulations on the documentary. We hope everyone gets a chance to see it.
Thanks for watching the U-Interview channel. With over 3,000 original celebrity videos, we have one of the largest collections of celebrity interviews anywhere. So remember to like and comment on our videos and subscribe to the channel. If you want to get more involved, you can become a member of the channel. Membership has its perks. You can see exclusive celebrity videos and get the opportunity to ask our celebrity guests questions. We can't wait to hear from you.